Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to Engineering Adda. So today I will be discussing about the Spring Boot annotations that are commonly used. So this time I am just going to cover all the REST API related Spring Boot annotations. So I have a couple of I have a list of annotation which are used into the API development. So these are the annotation that I will be discussing now. Okay, let me cut this. Okay, so this is REST controller, request mapping, get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, delete mapping, request body, path variable, and request parameters. So these annotation I will discuss today. So coming to the first REST controller. So why we are using the REST controller and what type of annotation it is. Okay, and so I will explain each aspect of the REST controller, why we are using it, how we can use it, and what do you mean by the REST controller. So coming to the REST controller is a class level annotation. It is a stereotype annotation. Okay, and when we declare any class with the at the rate REST controller, that means we are going to expose all the HTTP methods, all the URLs there in that particular class. So coming to development, guys, I have already created a Spring Boot CRUD related operations project. So there I already covered all these annotations. So I will just pin the in the comment section. I will just pin that GitHub URL. Okay, so from there you can just catch it up. So I will just open the IntelliJ there and then I will just show you. Okay, so coming to the controller class. I've created this user controller. Okay, so you can see this class I have annotated with at the rate REST controller. That means it is a stereotype annotation, which is a class level annotation, and that means this class will be having all the HTTP request. So all the HTTP request will be exposed here in this class. Okay, coming to the next annotation that we have in the list. So it is a request mapping annotation. So I will show you how we can use the request mapping. So here you can see I have used the request mapping and just map this URL here. But earlier, what we were going to do is this is a very old annotation. Okay, so earlier when put, get, delete, okay, this post annotation were not there, then what we were using with the help of the request mapping only we could design all those things, all those annotations like put, post, get, and put, delete. So all basic four CRUD annotations we can design with the help of the request mapping. Now what we are going, we are just mapping some URL here. But earlier how we can use the request mapping to create a post, I will just show you. Similar way, you can also go for the get, put, and delete. So here you can see with the help of the request mapping, what I have did, I just annotated the URL, okay, here as a value and the method. If it is a post method, then we can keep the request method as a post. Similarly, if you want to use it as a get, then you can just go for all those things. Okay. So these are the methods that are available here. So earlier we were using the request mapping for this work. Okay, so that is about the request mapping. And coming to the next annotation, let me see what is there. So it is a get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, and delete mapping. So I will explain you each annotation one by one, and I will show you how you can work through it. So coming to the get mapping, so here you can see I have created one API with the help of the get mapping. Okay, so this is a method level annotation, and here we are just um, creating some part of our URL. Okay, so with the help of get mapping, what will do, it will help us to fetch the data from the database, to read the data from the database. Okay, so here with the help of the post mapping, what I had did, I just did some insertion into of the user record into the database, and with the help of get mapping, what I will do, I will just fetch out those record. Okay, so here you can see I'm using get mapping, and the method is get user by id, and I'm passing some url here, some part of url. Okay, I'm just using this user and I'm passing the argument here. Okay, so this, with the help of this url, I'm just going to show you how we can fetch the data from the database. Okay, so come to the postman, and you can see our url will be our this application is up on the port number, let me run it and then I will show you. It is up on port number 9190. I have configured it like that. So once it is up, we can form our URL, and it will start from the this request mapping API. And then if you are going for get mapping, then you have to put the user and then you have to provide the ID here. Okay, so come to the postman. You can see, let me show you in which port this application is up. So it is up on 9190. So come to the postman. Here you can see locally it is up on 9190, and request mapping we provided the value as a API. So API have there, and then if you want to get the user from the database, then you need to provide the user as a URL, and then you need to provide the user ID. So before hitting this, I am just going to show you that in the database what all the records are there. So just let me select and so you can see in the database I have these two records only. And by the way, this is the database that I have created, CRUD user app. And come to the IntelliJ. Here you can see in the application properties file, I have used this database. Okay. And this database has only one table, which is user table. So you can say in the database we have two records. Here we are going to, with the help of the postman, going to trigger the get API, and I will just paste the I will just use this ID as a one, and then I will just send the request. So here you can see for the ID one, we have the user details like name as Rajni, father name Ram, and Delhi, and age is 25. So you can come here into the database and you can also see for the user one, this is the record. So we are fetching those things. Okay. So this is about the get mapping, guys. It is used to fetch the record from the database. Now coming to the other annotation, which is I would say, let me explain you. Come to the another annotation, which is say put mapping. Okay, so put mapping is used to update the record which is already inserted into the database. Okay, and similar way, I will show you how you can update those things. Similar way, I have some another annotation which is post mapping and delete mapping. So with the help of the post mapping, what we'll do, we are just going to insert some record into the database. Okay. So first of all, let me explain you the post mapping, and then I will go for the put and delete. Okay. So coming to the post mapping, you can see I have provided this URL as a insert. So our URL will be localhost 9190 API insert, and then we need to provide a user details in the form of the JSON, so that that user can be inserted into the database. So come to the postman. So here I have a format like these are the details that a user entity have. You can see ID, name, father name, address, and age. ID is auto generated, so we don't use the ID here, and I'm just going to use the name and father name, address, and age. So name, just let's say it's Neha, and father name is something like this only. Okay, and then I'm going for the address as Noida something, or Bangalore, we can say. Let's say it's Bangalore, and age is 23. So let me hit the, okay, before that, just in the postman we need to change it to the post. and the API was insert. Okay, so I'm just going to hit it now and then we'll see into the database what happens. So come to the database. Now you can see we have selected the user table and you can see the record is inserted here. So this is about the post mapping. Coming to the put and delete mapping, I will just show you. So put is used for the updation and delete is used to delete the record. So yeah, come to the put. Where is the put mapping? So put mapping is used to update the detail user details into the database. So here you can see we are providing the user instance and the ID. So based upon the ID, what we are going to do, we are just going to fetch that user and then we'll update those user detail. So for that, I'm using the put mapping. So come to the this postman and then here it is update. Okay, okay, update. Say I'm updating the user ID 2. Okay, and we are updating some say name to be like earlier you can see what is the user ID 2. User ID 2 name is Sagar and father name is Ram and the age is 40 and the address is Noida. So come to the postman and then now we can rename it to say it's uh, N- Nakul. Okay, father name is Shiv and let's say address is Bangalore and age is 24. And then we are using the put. So here we need to make as a put and then we'll send this. So you can see, okay, let me make it save. You can see that it is updated. Okay, and you can also see this into the database as well. So you can see it is updated. Now come to the database. Okay, where is that? And just run this query. So you can see the user 2 is updated. So put mapping is used for updation and coming to the delete one. I have not implemented it yet, but yeah, I will implement it and then show you how we can use the delete. So coming here, uh, I don't know if I have created this thing or not. So give me some time. I'm just create and then yeah, I will show you those things. Okay, yeah, you can see in the user service I have created this method and in implementation I have not did any implementation. Now I'm going to do that. So I will just use the user repo dot find or there is an option of delete I think. So delete by ID and then I will just provide this ID here. So it will delete this ID, the user record with this ID. Okay, and now I'm going to create a controller for it. So I'm just going to copy this and then paste it here and then this is for delete mapping and we'll say it like delete. Okay, and then it is done. Now coming here to the let's say it's return nothing and then delete user by id something like that user by id and then here we need to provide the user id so it should be yeah you can provide it either through path variable. Okay, I will discuss these things also. Path variable int id and then here we need to pass the id and then call it delete user by id we need to pass the id here and we need not to return anything. So it will delete these things. Let me rerun this application and then I will show you how the delete is working. So basically you now know that delete mapping is used for deletion the record from the database. So it is up. Okay, come to the postman. Okay, and we have these three records into the database that you can see. I'm just going to delete the record 2. So here I will use delete and the type of the method should be delete and we'll need to send this request. So come to the database and you can run this and you can see user table 2 is deleted now. So user with the ID 2 is deleted from the database. Okay. So it is working fine. Now you know that we have covered those four. Just give me one moment. So yeah, you can see this is deleted. So we have covered those four basic CRUD related REST API annotation. Okay, now coming to the next annotation where it is. So we have covered this four. Now coming to the request body, path variable and request parameters. So these three are used to pass the argument either in the form of the overload or in the form of the URL that we are hitting. So coming to the request body, I will just show you how we are using it. So come here into the form in the post mapping. You can see in the post mapping we are using this request body, and we are just providing the user request, sorry, user instance, and from the postman we are hitting this JSON format user detail. Okay, and then what is happening? So we are providing this with the help of the request body. We are just sending the uh, user details in the form of overload. Okay, and then what it is happening, it is just inserting these things into the database from there. So in the form of JSON we are sending the request, then it is converting into the Java object, and then it inserting into the database. So this is the work of a request body. It will convert the request in the form of JSON to the Java object, and then it will help us inserting into the database. And yeah, this is the work of request body. And coming to the path variable, here you can see we have used the path variable. So path variable is like we are using path variable is to send the argument in the form of URL. So you can see when we are using get mapping, so we are providing this ID here in the form of URL. So whenever you are using the path variable, so we have to provide the argument in the form of URL only. Okay. And what is the difference between the path variable and the request parameter? That will also I will tell you. Okay, so I just want to clear you on the path variable. So I will just show you how we are using it. So what we need to do when we are using at the rate path variable annotation, then in that time what we need to do, we need to provide the argument in the form of URL. So you can come here into the postman. You can see when I was using the what was that? Yeah, when I was using the get mapping, then I was just providing this ID in the form of URL only. And here we are just passing the get, and then we'll send it. If you not provide, then it will won't work. Okay, so you can see it is not working. So whenever we are providing the argument, again I'm telling you that whenever we are providing the argument in the form of URL, then we are using the path variable as annotation. Okay. What about the request parameter? So request parameter annotation is used when we are providing the URL, when we are providing the argument in the form of URL only. So both are same, but there is a difference between it. There is a difference between it. Uh, like whenever we are using at the rate path variable, then it is mandatory to send the URL to send the argument in the URL. Otherwise, the URL won't work. But this is not the case for the request parameter. It either can be true or can be false. So I will just show you how it is working. So come to the Explorer here, and yeah, how you can hit it, I will just show you. So you can see here what we are doing. What is the mapping for it? Just let me see. So you can see request parameter, and this is get ID by request. So till here we need to copy, and then we'll go to the browser, and here it is 9190 and up get ID by request. Let me paste it here. And then what we need to do, you are providing the ID equal to 2 and then we'll hit. But it is not giving any result. I don't know. Yeah, come to the database. You can see the ID2 is not there in the database. Okay, come here and then just update ID as a 3. And you can see we are getting the result. So whenever you are using the uh, request parameter, then it is not mandatory to provide the ID to provide the argument in the form of URL. But whenever you are using the path variable, you need to provide. Otherwise, the URL won't work. Yeah. Now you can see here how we are providing the whenever we are using the request parameter. This is the format what we need to use to hit the URL. So here you can see till here this is the mapping that we did, and then when we are providing the argument, then we need to put the question mark and the argument and their value. So come here, you can see this is the mapping, and then the argument is ID and we need to provide its value. Okay, so you can see here we are providing 3 and we are getting the result also. So this is about all the REST API annotations. Thanks for the video guys. Please subscribe the channel.